Good afternoon. Welcome to All Souls on this most joyous and most auspicious occasion. We have gathered to ordain Pamela Patton to the ministry. This service bodes well for Pamela, for our congregation, and for the communities we serve. Pamela has asked me to offer a few words of explanation about the meaning of this occasion. I will do so in terms of two different words that sound the same, rite and rite. We are here to exercise a rite, R-I-G-H-T. The sharp-eyed among you may have noticed a curious reference in the plaque here in the front of the sanctuary, which refers to the first Congregational Church. When All Souls was founded in 1819 and incorporated in New York State religious corporation law required the congregation to choose a denomination or faith tradition, but Unitarian wasn't an option. So the founders chose the tradition that most closely aligned with Unitarianism in terms of governance. We come from the congregational tradition, which vests each congregation alone with making its own governance decisions as well as identifying and ordaining its own ministers. As heirs to this tradition, we here today exercise our congregational right to ordain one who has been called from among us to serve in this honored capacity. In so doing, we will enact a rite, R-I-T-E. The act of ordination, which we as a congregation will enact in due course, is the sacred consummation of many years of ministerial preparation on Pamela's part and many years of discernment concerning her suitability for the role on the part of the congregation. Speaking of ordinations, my very first memory as a child is of my father's ordination to the conservative Mennonite ministry. 5 men had been identified as potential candidates for ordination, one of whom was my father, who felt a deep sense of calling to the ministry. At the ordination service, the 5 men sat together in the front pew, and there were 5 Bibles on the altar, in one of which was a slip of paper with a Bible verse. You have been called and chosen to preach the good news. During a hymn, the men each went up in their turn as they chose and selected one of the Bibles. Whoever got the Bible with the scripture verse would then be ordained. My father felt certain he knew which Bible the scripture verse was in, but he decided just to be safe and wait until last. The Bible he had pre-selected was the Bible that remained, and it indeed had the scripture verse in it. 10 minutes later, my father was ordained to the ministry. My own view is that the lottery approach to ordination leaves a lot to be desired. Though my father obviously hit the spiritual jackpot. What I know is that Pamela's sense of calling is just as deep as my father's was. And this rite we will enact here today will affirm her sense of calling. Let me add a personal note. For the past decade, I have been privileged to work alongside Pamela as she has developed her considerable talents in ministry and clarified her sense of calling. I consider myself deeply fortunate to be her colleague. She is one of the best of us, and it is our great good fortune that she will commit herself this day to continuing ministry among us. Pamela, I love you. We love you. Blessings on you this day.
This afternoon's responsive reading is a Buddhist metta meditation, which is the text of hymn 1031, Filled with Loving Kindness. Please respond after each line. Responses are in your order of service. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be peaceful and at ease.
May you be filled with loving kindness.
May you be well.
May you be filled with loving kindness.
May you be well.
May you be peaceful and at ease. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be peaceful and at ease.
She looks so buttoned up, right? Welcome, everyone. My name is Sherry Henderson, and I co-chaired the study group that helped steer us to this most wonderful day in the life of our church, the ordination of our beloved friend and minister, Pamela Patton. Even in this age of polarization and divisiveness, our vote last spring to grant Pamela the lifetime title of Reverend was overwhelmingly positive. No surprise. There's a saying, they may forget what you said, but they will never forget how they made you feel. They will never forget how you made them feel. So many of us have a story about how Pamela helped us through a hard time with spiritual guidance, with practical advice, always by listening, really listening, the kind that means putting aside her own worries and her own ego and centering us. I don't know of anything more precious than to be heard and cared for in that way. I see that kind of caring even when I'm not in a crisis. A few weeks ago, she told the online meditation group about her weekend retreat and how hard it was to sit still for so long. Finally, she asked the leader if she could do a walking meditation instead. The answer was no. I wish I could have seen her face. Pamela, our in-house expert, went back to her spot and muddled through. She struggled, and then she shared that struggle with us, and she made it okay for us to struggle too. And this caring happens behind the scenes, like the way she ran such a thorough, efficient, effective search for our new director of lifespan faith formation. All of the best things that this church is and can be are embodied in Pamela Patton. So welcome everyone to this celebration of all we are and all we can be.
Good afternoon. I am the Reverend Aaliyah Shimbro. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm a fat, white, genderqueer human with very short, dark hair, dark glasses, and today I'm here wearing a black shirt and a blue stole. It is my honor and privilege to offer greetings from the Central East region of your Unitarian Universalist Association on this joyful occasion of this local ordination. I'm here today extending these good wishes for the present and future ministry affirmed by the gathered body of this congregation, and as the representative and embodiment of this congregation's covenant with the wider Unitarian Universalist Association. In Unitarian Universalism, the authority to ordain, to recognize, to set apart and lift up, and call a minister into sacred leadership is the sole privilege and responsibility of each congregation. And we are inextricably connected through relationship with our ever-widening Unitarian Universalist community, in and beyond each congregation. So Pamela, today as you are ordained, you may be lifted up alone, but our covenants, these agreements of how we will be in relationship with the larger whole, help us to practice ministry in good company. The practice of this covenant is our commitment to move together, to center the presence of a love larger than can be named or contained in a single sermon or in any one affirmation of an extraordinary life of service and leadership. Together, the congregations of our association offer care and connection through times of struggle and in times of celebration too. It is through honoring our mutuality and our commitment to accountability that we ultimately grow in the faithful practice of ministry, together across our UU movement. So welcome and welcome again. It is so very good to be together today, and it is a joy to greet this day alongside each of you.
So Pamela's given me the not-so-easy task of asking for the money. So I had to think of a more comfortable way to do this. So I reflected on, well, what's generosity about? And it helped me a real lot to think, well, generosity is like the cousin of gratitude. How many of us right now, today, feel gratitude and generosity? You feel it inside, right? And it becomes an embodied practice, something we feel inside, and we embody it in the world. As people of faith, we admit to our interdependence. And from an anthropological point of view, without the continuous free flow of giving and receiving, we cannot have society or survival of the species. Because that continuous flow of giving and receiving is foundational to interpersonal as well as social trust, to community security, and to the possibility for community's members to thrive and be creative. Couldn't do it without that. And it's not just about species survival. It is foundational to spirituality, right? Where we feel in the heart. Because generosity is also about love, compassion, joy, gratitude, our commitment to justice, and it's because we are a species that can have hope. But it's also a thing we create. We can have hope for an idea, a thing, but to have hope in it means we have to make realistic hope come alive. And we do that as a spiritual practice of giving. So I put together gratitude, hope, and generosity. They are one package. So I am going to invite you to acts of generosity on behalf of All Souls and Union Theological Seminary's Field Education Program, because both have been integral to the pastoral formation, the beautiful pastoral formation of Pamela Patton, along with, because threesomes are the spiritual thing, right? Along with her Buddhist tradition and practices. All have been integral to her formation. So a few words about field education at Union. Every Master of Divinity student must complete a year-long supervised field education assignment in a real-world environment. Through experiential knowledge and experience, that's what transforms our book-learned theology into practical and lived theology. It is the basis and out of which is born the future minister. It shapes ministerial identity and practice because we learn new ways of being, doing, thinking, imagining, and we are continuously reflecting on our intentions, our actions, the results, and that continuous feedback loop through which we can see whether we have been ethical and have efficacy in what we're doing. As a friend doing field ed at the same time in the same year, I knew Pamela did not feel called to congregational ministry. We both were interested in chaplaincy work, and I assumed she would do, some chaplaincy-related field education program, but Dr. Supak, who we will hear from today, saw in Pamela the future gifts of a pastoral minister. She saw in Pamela a demeanor, a presence that would lend itself to pastoral ministry in a congregation. And so, Pamela did her field ed here at All Souls. That was 2013, and here, 11 years later, we are celebrating her ordination. And so to get back to that gratitude, how grateful are we? Because we have already benefited for 11 years from Pamela's gifts and her authenticity. And so we've already benefited, and we look forward to many, many years of future benefits, wisdom, presence, and the like. And so, like the gift that keeps giving, Union has also placed other UU seminarian students here as field interns. So we have benefited a lot. And therefore, it is Pamela's desire to share our generosity today with All Souls and Union's field education program. So I invite you into the spiritual practice of gratitude, generosity, and creating realistic hope in the things that matter to us. Any donation you made, as I said, will be shared by All Souls and the field education program. And for added convenience, there is a QR code at the back of the order of service. So give freely and often. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is the Reverend Molly O'Neill Frank, and I'm so happy to be among so many old friends on this auspicious day. My dear friend Pamela has asked me to read this poem. Shoulders by Naomi Shihab Nye. A man crosses the street in rain, stepping gently, looking 2 times north and south, because his son is asleep on his shoulder. No car must splash him, no car drive too near to his shadow. This man carries the world's most sensitive cargo, but he's not marked. Nowhere does his jacket say, fragile, handle with care. His ears fill up with breathing. He hears the hum of a boy's dream deep inside him. We're not going to be able to live in this world if we're not willing to do what he's doing with one another. The road will only be wide. The rain will never stop falling.
I am truly, truly honored to be here on this joyous and momentous day, a day when the congregation of All Souls and Pamela Patton affirm and commit to the mutual ministry in this service of ordination. I bring greetings from Union Theological Seminary, and All Souls has been a historic partner not only as an important institution of religious leadership in New York City and beyond, but also as an educational field site for our ever-expanding field education program at Union. Thank you so much for your ongoing partnership with us in training religious leaders for such a time as this. Naomi Shihab Nye, a Palestinian-American poet, writes in the poem you just heard read, "His ears fills up with breathing. He hears the hum of a boy's dream deep inside him." In that, there is a gentle invitation, a beautiful call to us gathered here today to be still, to fill our ears up with breathing, our own breath and the breath of those around us, honoring the breath of those who have gone before us, grieving the breath cut short. And to hear in that breath, we hear the hum of each other's dreams. So now I'd like to invite you to breathe with me, to come to silence with your dreams, listening with the ears of your heart for a few breaths as an embodied prayer. Take a breath in and out. In and out. A big breath in, filling your body, and out, release. Thank you. Pamela, I am grateful for this invitation to bear witness to the blessing of your ministry here with All Souls and in the world. This courageous congregation, a courageous community, wholeheartedly commits to a ministry of care, a ministry of healing, of holding that is so desperately needed today. Caring is a subversive act. Caring and tending is a revolutionary force. But that need to tend to each other is not new, is it? That need to tend to each other has always been urgent, has always been pressing, has always been important. Because you see, every day we wake up to more and more news that reminds us that the road will only be wide. The rain will never stop falling. Because you see, every day we are reminded that whether we are on the left or the right, east or west, north or south, violence, the fragility of our earthly home, and the precarity of our lives are part of the fabric of our existence. Division is present, part of our reality. Blame and retribution are jostling to dethrone love and care in our lives and our communities, even as we fight for what is just and center the least of these. So what a model you, All Souls, are for how we might think about tending to each other, how we might practice loving each other. And let me say that as a lifelong Presbyterian and more recently a practicing Buddhist, I admire the Unitarian Universalists, you who voted at your General Assembly this past June to put love squarely in the center. You made it clear that love, paraphrasing Reverend Dr. Sherry Prodholm, love is the power that holds us together and is at the center of your shared UU values. You made it clear that you are accountable to one another for doing the work of living your shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. And you buttressed love with pluralism, justice, transformation, generosity, equity, and interdependence. Because you said in Article 2 that we need all of it when we're at the intersection of that too wide a road, and we need all of it when the rain keeps falling. And whether we are doing the carrying or being carried, whether we're the man, resourced, strong, courageous, carrying his son, or we're the son being carried, sensitive, precious cargo, so safe in the arms of love and trust that we can finally release into our vulnerabilities and dream deep dreams. And at times, we are both the man and the son, aren't we? How do we practice all of it? How do we practice the spiritual discipline of love and care? How do we practice love when we're in hard transitions, when the world around us is breaking, when we can't seem to agree, when being right is more important than decades of friendship, when our hearts are heavy with sorrow, when all we want to do is lay our heads down and be held? The poet writes, "A man crosses the street in rain, stepping gently, looking 2 times north and south because his son is asleep on his shoulder. He looks not once, but twice. He pauses. He knows the preciousness he is carrying. He knows that the only response to the life, that vulnerable, precious life, is to slow down, look again, move slowly, steadily, so as not to disturb. He knows as he comes to that intersection, no umbrella, no raincoat that we know of, he knows that he must do everything in his power to hold his son's vulnerability. He doesn't complain. He doesn't wake the child. He doesn't blame. He doesn't rush. He looks and looks again. He holds and holds. This is what we can do for each other. This is the practice of our time. This is what it means to ordain Pamela. It is your saying yes to being willing to hold and love. It is in your saying yes to making space for each other's vulnerabilities and doing so from the place of love. It is your saying that here in this place, you can dream together as you slow down enough to hear the hum of each other's dreams, to hear each other's breath, to breathe and dream together. In her brilliant and poetic book, Undrowned, Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Mammals, Alexis Pauline Gomes asks, what is the scale of breathing? She says, all animals participate in this exchange of release for continued life, but not without plants. The plants, in their inverse process, release what we need, take what we give without being asked, and the planet, wrapped in ocean breathing into sky. What is the scale of breathing, she asks. You, we, are part of it now, she says. You're not alone. The scale of breathing is collective. Who is the we in this collective? With whom do we breathe? With whom do we conspire? Whose breath is worthy to be held and nourished? Whose breath is worthy of dreaming into safety, comfort, living without fear, and being accepted? Like the sun, dreaming requires protection. In that deep sleep, he is vulnerable, defenseless. How might we provide that protection for those whose dreams we carry? the poet says, his ear fills with breathing. He hears the hum of a boy's dream deep inside him. He hears. He listens. He listens not only to his son, but to himself. He listens not only with his ears, but also with ears of his heart. Listening is really hard work. Truly listening takes slowing down and opening up, getting oneself out of the way, learning to take responsibility for our frequencies, being willing to lean into each other's with tenderness and curiosity, accepting the invitation to hold one another's humanity, where sometimes the temptation is to see only disagreement, threat, rivalry. But instead, we create that third space through deep listening. If the scale of breathing is collective, connective, interdependent, then the scale of our listening is also collective, connective, and interdependent. We listen not only to the human species, but also to mammals, plants, and the earth. As Goem says, listening is not only about the normative ability to hear, it is transformative and revolutionary resource that requires quieting down and tuning in. The listening we're being drawn into as a people of faith, as people who have hope, as people who provide sacred shelter, is a listening with the ears of a heart to that breathing together, the trans-species type of breathing, and from that listening to that breath, which is faithful and effortful, comes love. This is why faith communities exist, to be a place where we can be held in our vulnerability, to be a place where we can dream new dreams together, trusting that we're safe, trusting that we can both offer and receive healing, to be a sanctuary where we practice breathing and listening together that gives us the courage to wander into that too wide a road, whether that wide road is a sudden horrific loss or an unforeseen diagnosis, the transition of a beloved minister, the election, the ongoing atrocities in Ukraine, Sudan, Israel and Palestine, or the flooding devastation in western North Carolina and fires in Wyoming. Because, as the poet says, we're not going to be able to live in this world if we're not willing to do what he is doing with one another. Friends, we need each other to find our way through. We need each other to create these third spaces. Pamela has been that third space, that practice that puts care and love above all else, called to this congregation at this time for such a time as this. She is not a stranger to you. She has been and will continue to be that third space of listening, listening to the hums of your dreams, the cries of your hearts, listening to the unspeakable sorrow and pain. In her quiet and persistent ways, Pamela has carried precious cargo, often unseen and unmarked, stepping into the wide and rainy streets in this congregation. You know her gifts. She has been called to step into a ministerial authority as she commits and recommits to her vocation, and you are there right beside her, listening to the hum of her dreams and the dreams you all have for All Souls and for the world. Pamela, bless you for taking up this ministry at this time. All Souls, Bless you for being a sanctuary in which love lives and breathes at the center, and together create spaces for each other's tenderness. Imagine a world in which holding each other in deep care is an act of radical love. Bless you for reminding us that to live in this world, to thrive in this world, we must be willing to breathe together. We must listen deeply together as a transformative and revolutionary resource in the service of love. For the road will only be wide. The rain will never stop falling. Amen.
Good afternoon. I am Richard Esposito, President of the Board of Trustees. My friends, we have gathered today for a very, very special occasion to ordain Pamela Patton into the Unitarian Universalist ministry. Within the Unitarian Universalist tradition, the authority to confer ordination lies wholly within the local church. It is a meaningful and joyous occasion when a congregation decides, as we have, to officially recognize one who has chosen professional ministry as her life's work. Pamela, will you rise and come forward and face the congregation? All right, there you are. This afternoon, we honor and affirm your calling to ministry. By a free vote by the members of the congregation, we desire to ordain you, Pamela, into the Unitarian Universalist ministry. Are you ready to enter into the ministry?
I am.
Will the members of the Unitarian Church of All Souls please rise as you are able and join me in this covenant of ordination? We, the members of Unitarian Church of All Souls, hereby ordain you, Pamela Patton, into the Unitarian Universalist ministry. Live into this call. May you minister from your whole self, heart and mind, body and spirit. May you always speak the truth as know it with courage and wisdom, and demonstrate grace and gentleness. Celebrate the mystery and wonder of life. Share in the joys and sorrows of our human condition. Embody the living tradition of our faith, and above all, serve the world with compassion and love. Will all who wish to add their blessings also rise in body or spirit and join in the affirmation of this ordination? Pamela, with joy we affirm your ordination. May your ministry be a source of healing in the world.
It is with joy and appreciation that I take up the ministry to which you ordain me. I vow to serve with a deep sense of obligation and opportunity, mindful of the great privileges and responsibilities of ministry, with profound gratitude for all who have walked before me and beside me. I will keep alive the meanings of this service so that my ministry will be enriched by the trust we have given one another. Peace be with you.
Peace be with you. Congratulations.
Okay. Pamela, you have made a lot of friends here at All Souls. And every one of those friendships, be they with members of the congregation, walk-ins on a Sunday morning, online attendees of your Buddhism program, church staff, children in religious education, clients of our feeding programs, or anybody else, to those people you have brought your full compassion, mindfulness, intention, clarity, purity, honesty, beauty, and your own growing wisdom. In short, you have gifted us at All Souls with your heart and your mind and your soul. And for that, we, all of us, are grateful beyond measure. And so, on behalf of the members of this congregation and the deacons of this church, that I have been allowed the distinct honor to present you with your robe of ordination, which you wear so well, but also with this stole, handmade of silk and painted by one of our own. And may the beauty of this raiment serve to enhance its use. May it enhance its use in ceremonies of joy and sadness, and of worship and of devotion. And may it serve as a symbol and a reminder of the faith that binds us all together, and the hope that we collectively share for a future of bright promise. Pamela, you are loved deeply by all the living members of this family of All Souls.
Dearest Reverend Pamela Patton, I got to be the first person to say that out loud. What an honor it is to stand with you here today, moments after you cross the threshold of ordination. I'm here to offer you a collegial welcome. From when I first met you, the word that came to mind when I thought of you was grace. Somehow you seem to be able to meet each person, each situation with grace. As I learned what your role at All Souls has evolved into over these years, the way you take care of people, the way you mentor students, the way you hold so much in your kind and capable hands, I was all the more in awe of the grace that was visible in your ministry. And yes, I use the word ministry not only for what is ahead of you, but for what you have already been doing here at All Souls, and no doubt long before that. My Zen teacher, Zoketsu Norman Fisher, who ordained me as a Zen priest years before I was ordained as a Unitarian Universalist minister, said that what he looked for when he invited someone into the preparation for ministry was that they were already acting like a Zen priest, already living a mature life of service, of kindness, of compassion. And yet, ordination is a big threshold. Like marriage, things are different on the other side. I'm sure there's some people who relate out there. And you have arrived at this moment in a very different way than the vast majority of your contemporaries in the Unitarian Universalist ministry. But in the 19th century, it was common for Unitarian and Universalist congregation to recognize one of their own as gifted for ministry. And you are living proof that a UU congregation, this great historic congregation, continues to hold that power and responsibility to recognize and ordain a person they see as truly ready for ministry, regardless of the path that brought them to that point. And who more than someone who is already ministering to the congregation, who has been honed in the fires of congregational life? You know what I'm talking about. Your chaplaincy training, your long grounding in serious Buddhist practice, and all your life experiences that allow you to minister with heart. This is what this congregation already knows and values. The people of All Souls know what's right for them. I was here for the morning service, which was packed, and when there was an announcement that the ordination was happening this afternoon, the whole place just burst into joyous clapping and cheering. That says something right there. This ordination is, more than anything, and perhaps more than most Unitarian Universalist ordinations, a powerful expression of trust. I hope you can feel that in your bones and that will support you as you go forward. And it is a kind of marriage, because this congregation has ordained you into a ministry specifically to All Souls itself. You're not on the way to somewhere else, like so many new UU ministers. This is your spiritual home and the field of your ministry. Now, it is up to us, your clergy colleagues, Buddhist and Unitarian Universalists, and other religious professionals from many traditions, to truly embrace you as one of us, fully ordained just as much as any of us. Without the support and affirmations of colleagues, and I'm talking to you in the front rows here, first few rows, the hard times in ministry, and there will be hard times, as you already know, may break you. Ministry cannot be done alone. Please don't forget that. Don't forget we are here. You are entering this great circle of ministry stretching far beyond this sanctuary and the people here, across the world, back in history, forward to the future, and grounded in love, whatever our tradition. You need us, but also, importantly, we need you. We need your grace, your kindness, and your wisdom. So I ask you, UU colleagues, other clergy here, and other religious professionals, will you join me, you don't have to stand, but will you join me in fully affirming this ordination and the wisdom of this congregation in ordaining Reverend Pamela Patton, I get to say it again, to UU ministry? Will you commit to welcoming her into our circle, showing up for her, ministering to her? If so, please call out with enthusiasm, "We will." I think that was the whole congregation, which is fantastic, because actually we are the priesthood of all believers. So there we are. In the past, this welcome from a UU colleague already in the ministry has been called the right hand of fellowship. But there's something a little formal and old school that didn't feel quite right to either of us when we were talking about this. So, as a fellow UU Buddhist, and with all my heart, I would like to offer you a UU Buddhist version, which is a bow and a hug. So we will now have a time of silent blessing for this new ministry, which isn't new at all, as we've just explored. Some of you have probably seen a laying on of hands in other UU ordinations, but it was Pamela's wish, given her Buddhist tradition, which so values silence, and the number of people here, to instead have this moment of silent blessing. You could, if you want to, put your hand or your hands on your heart, and in this silence, please send her strength and love and every blessing for her new ministry. Thank you.
We'll do it this way. I think I'm okay. Nope. I will just speak louder. Yeah. I've heard that it should sound uncomfortable to me, so that's an interesting warning. We have always known each other. My name is community in Tibetan, a community of saints. When I got ordained, the great teachers of my tradition came together and created a space together as you have done here. Looking at you, I must congratulate you. You called for a servant and someone replied. I must congratulate Reverend Galen. You threw your mantle from your fiery chariot, and is it not hanging beautifully from Pamela's shoulders? I congratulate you, Pamela, as your friend and your teacher. You have responded to the calling. The great Rabbi Abraham Heschel writes in his book on the prophets, prophethood is thrust on your shoulders, and you have done, and you have received. He says beautifully, and let me paraphrase it to make it a little bit broader than he does, is that it is a call to be a witness to the hardships of life, but also to its joys. To the constrictions that sometimes we experience, with the great hope and love, compassion that abides in each of our hearts. It is a calling to become the silent pivot in a community to which people can return when life is turbulent. It is also a calling to cry and to laugh. I would like to invite the great Lord Avalokiteshvara to this occasion. The Buddha of compassion. But you may see him in many, or her, by the way, in many different forms. We can imagine that in this glorious occasion, a calling to prophethood, for what else is ministry, in final word. That in this calling and this response, Buddhas and prophets of every tradition amass, because this is truly, as they call it, the Gana Chakra, a feast of coming together. The image of Avalokiteshvara is of a being with 1,000 arms to embrace, with 1,000 hands to give, with 1,000 eyes to see those that are seen and those that are, and especially those that are unseen, and I know you see. I want to invite Avalokiteshvara and all the saints of the great traditions not as something only exterior, but also that calling that each of us experience in our hearts when we see both the joys and the sufferings of others, and that has our hearts rise. I would like us to imagine that we fill the space with all that we have and do not have, and could possibly imagine that it fills out the space in offerings to serve and to satisfy the needs of all living beings as much as we can. Let us take this moment together as a community to let go of the wrongs that we remember, for they truly belong to the past. And let's look around, and especially today, well, Reverend Galen that gives on his mantle and the one that received it. But also at each other to rejoice that each of us brings an extraordinary and unique gift. To be a servant is to be a servant of a community. But servants do not exist outside of communities. You share in the ministry of Reverend Pamela. I invoke Avalokiteshvara and all the saints that fill our space to provide you their blessings, that you may always know them beside you, that when you look for inspiration, when you are desperate and lost, that it takes a moment of silence to hear their voice. I pray that for as long as space remains, for as long as your congregation and all sentient beings remain, that you may remain with them, not only to alleviate their suffering, but to smile when they experience joy. And I'm going to do a monkish thing, as everyone is doing it.
Oh, I know her well, and I feel very lucky, as all of you do too. I feel inspired to be here, honored and inspired to be amongst you all. I too was at the service this morning and then today, and I have to be in this community, to be amongst you all. I feel inspired by how you listen to one another, by how this you fill this very light and spacious, open sanctuary with silence and music, beautiful music. To be at All Souls, and I just love that name, All Souls. I'm reminded that you remind me that each and every one of us creates the communities of which we're a part, and that how we show up with one another affects and creates how that community functions. I know Pamela because this is what we explored at Union Theological Seminary. She was in a couple of my courses. And in these courses, students came together to discover and unlock their own unique, authentic voice, to look at how we create a small class community together. In these classes, we asked ourselves, who are we? What are we here to cause? What, if anything, needs to be expressed to help this community thrive? Is there anything in the way? And in this class, in a semester-long process, I got to know Pamela and all the students, and I came to appreciate Pamela's immense and wide-wielding gifts and talents. I mean, we've heard so many of them lifted up today. Her presence, just this being, the kind of energy she brings to the moment, open, erect, positive, focused, and generous. Always an eager learner, always totally invested in what the moment calls for. She was always and is one of the most conscientious and diligent and hardworking people I know. And in particular, in class, I was always struck by her absolutely unwavering commitment to the health and the growth of every single member of the class. She was a minister in our class. She helped these class communities grow and be beneficial for every single one of us. So, what do I encourage you on the road ahead? Because I know her and I've worked with her. I encourage you and charge you, dear Pamela, to take very good care of yourself. Good, gentle care of yourself, of your body, of your heart, of your mind and spirit. To be a good, easy mom to your whole beloved self. I charge you to find nourishment in your family and friends and to be refreshed. I encourage you to physically relax. Yes. To exhale. To give in to gravity. To let go completely. It is time now to maybe not work so hard. I mean, you are hardworking, you are conscientious, you are diligent. You've got that handled. Now it is time to let go and to go out around the corner to explore the spaces you've never been, to wander out into the dark and make mistakes, to find humor and joy and laughter in all the mess of it, to be a mess. I mean, and my charge to Pamela is really a charge to all of us, isn't it? I mean, it is time now in this world, on this planet that we live on, for all of us now to show up. It is time now for all of us to stop working those muscles that we know are strong because it feels good to work them. We have the strengths we have. We need now to trust ourselves and who we are. We are called now, every single one of us, to step up and to step out on the precipice of the unknown and to give ourselves to each other and to make good things happen. Congratulations to this thriving, living, pulsing, generous community, and to you.
My final task on this occasion is to charge you as a congregation, which is a somewhat curious thing to do. The word charge could mean any number of things. I could charge you $20. I could charge you with speeding. I could charge you until your low battery light goes off. I could get on a horse and charge you. Speaking of which, the most ancient meaning of the word charge means to load a wagon or cart. It is in this sense that I use the word charge this afternoon. A charge is the burden you are now responsible to bear, the weight that is now on your shoulders because Pamela has been ordained as a minister. I will speak of this burden, this responsibility, in terms of two ancient words, magister, which means the most, and minister, which means the least. Pamela is now a magister. The clerical garb she now wears signifies to her and to you that she has been called out from among you as first among equals. By virtue of her ordination, Pamela has been designated as one most qualified to lead this congregation. Spiritual leadership, moral leadership, and organizational leadership. Your responsibility in light of your ordination of her is to give her the freedom to lead. You may not always agree with her decisions, but it is your duty to respect her authority as one who has been called by you to lead. Pamela is also now a minister. She is one among many, the least among us in the same sense that we are all human and fallible. She will inevitably make mistakes and disappoint you. When this happens, your duty is to show her kindness and compassion. Be kind and patient with her as she will unfailingly be kind and patient with you. Take care of her as she will always take care of you. So that's the burden. Respect her authority as magister and be unfailingly kind to her as minister. Also, when her low battery light goes on, insist that she take a break. She has been and will continue to be a source of spiritual energy and strength for you. You need to do the same for her. This is a very good thing that you have done here today. Treat this minister, this Reverend Pamela Patton, as a treasure, because she is. Will somebody say amen? So I think we've done it. It's time for recess. Our recessional hymn is number 124, Be That Guide. Let's sing together.
Please be seated. And now, in our going, may love bless us and keep us. May the light of love shine upon us and out from within us, and be gracious unto us and grant us peace. This is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen.